This is your Olympic hero and former WWE champion, Kurt Angle. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my guys, Clint and Noah. When it comes to covering sports, there is no one better. And believe me, that's true. It's damn true. These guys definitely have the three eyes, and I'll put an ankle lock on anyone who disagrees.
And it is our pleasure here on the Great American Sports Network to welcome a true inspirational person, someone that I grew up watching in the wrestling ring, but now he's making a difference in many other ways, and that man is Marc Mero. Marc, welcome to the show. How is everything going out in your world, my man?
Clinton, thanks for having me on your show. It is going great.
Absolutely. I mean, just seeing the things that you've done, the impact that you've made, and I wanted everyone to first off, I mean, the website is thinkpause.org, and that kind of says it all right there. You're sort of someone out there championing the idea of positive thinking, positive choices. First off, I mean, this has been an incredible journey for you, but how did you get to this point? Because you're one of the most sought after speakers in the country right now as far as middle school and high school. How did this all come about, man?
Oh my gosh, I guess, it comes all the way back to, when I first got out of wrestling, I always said that there's two types of people. There's people that say something needs to be done, and then there's a person that says, I want to go out there and do something. And I think for years, I was always guilty of being that person saying something needs to be done. And I think I finally got to the point in my life where I really wanted to make a difference in the world, and I went out there and started sharing my own personal story where my good choices took me, but I was very honest where my bad choices took me. And we started this nonprofit organization in 2007 called Champion of Choices, and now we're in our 10th year. Over 1,800 schools, churches, and corporations around the world. And it's just been an amazing, amazing journey.
And you've been in the ring, you've been in the wrestling ring, you've won titles, you've been in the public eye, you know what that's like. But can you describe what it's like to go in and talk to a group of teens? And I've seen some of your videos. Unfortunately, I haven't seen you live yet. I'm actually a high school educator myself, hoping to get you in some point here in Kansas City, Missouri. We'd love to have you. But what is that feeling like for you to be able to come through and to talk to these people and see the reactions? I've seen a lot of the videos, Marc, just people just openly crying in the crowd. You really have an amazing talent for this, excellent delivery. The stories are great. What is that feeling for you when you're able to do this on a weekly basis?
Well, Glenn, first of all, I got to tell you, there's no greater joy in my life than helping another person, and especially young people that are trying to find their way in the world themselves. And it's actually just probably the most exhilarating thing I've ever done. I remember being, like at Royal Rumble in front of, 60 or 80,000 people for that with WWE, and feeling more nervous walking out to 1,000 high school students, But, I've done so many now, and I find a way to connect with them that it's actually, there's just so much excitement now at the presentations, and it's still so much fun. I get to go out there and still, in wrestling we get to entertain people, but in this realm you still get to entertain people. And the good thing is, Clint, no one's hitting me over the head with a chair anymore. The longevity is great.
Yes, that's an excellent transition, and something that and it's just great. It just seeing something, and we laugh about it, but some of the material is very, very serious, very you don't pull any punches. I mean, you basically tell your story. You give a lot of examples, a lot of things that went on in your own life, and it's a lot of things I didn't even really realize. But my goodness, you've been through so many things, and that I think that coming from someone like you that's been through those things, that's what I think is able to impact somebody more. Someone that's been there and done that, so you can really relate to these people, can't you?
Well, more so than that is I think they can relate to my story, and that's what's so important, is that these young people that, we see many students that, grow up in a single-family home. It's very common now. You see many grandparents that have stepped up and take care of the kids today. And you see, people with so many people struggling with substance abuse. So many people that are struggling. The heroin epidemic has just exploded in our country, the opiate use, and prescription medication. And we're just seeing so many kids that are being bullied or abused. I mean, when we were in school, you knew who the school bully was. You tried to stay away from that guy or girl. But today, we could see it happening 24/7 with kids with social media and cell phones and so on, that they can just constantly barrage a child where they just feel hopeless and worthless, and that's why we're seeing so many kids that feel like they don't want to be here anymore. And it's so amazing. I mean, when I was in school, we never knew a kid self-harming, burning, or cutting themselves, and we certainly didn't know anybody want to kill themselves. Today, it's hard to find a student that doesn't know someone that's self-harming or has taken their life. And it's amazing that when I go to these schools, I often meet with a principal or counselors before my presentation, and many times they'll say to me, Mark, unfortunately, we've had 3 overdoses, we had a suicide, and it's like, wow, it's so tragic to hear these things that are happening at people's in such a young place in their life. They have their whole lives ahead of them, and I want them to realize that after every storm, the sun will eventually shine. We get through these things, and many of the kids that bullied or were rude to us in life, you sometimes can't remember what their last name was when you get older, or what happened. But kids take it so to heart these days.
Yeah, definitely. They're talking about permanent solutions to just a temporary problem. But you mentioned prescription drugs and drug abuse, and that's very prevalent in professional wrestling. We've had so many great wrestlers pass away. Just what is your thoughts on that? I mean, you went through that. A lot of wrestlers did with steroids and different other drugs, uppers, downers. Do you think that's changed in professional wrestling, or is that something that's still going on that needs to be addressed more?
Well, I think in any professional sport, you're going to have people that are going to get involved in things they shouldn't. That's just the nature of what we do. But I got to really believe that it has gotten better. I think I know a lot of guys have ostracized me because I spoke out against wrestling when I left the industry. And it was more about the things that I was able to do and the things that I did. And it wasn't about pointing my fingers at other people. But, I really believe that, if I could go back and change something, I wouldn't change anything, because I really believe that in some way, guys like me and some others that stood up maybe made the changes that were necessary, or had WWE start implementing stricter drug testing and so on, because it brought a lot of attention to the industry. And maybe it did save some people. We don't see as many wrestlers dying of drug overdose that are currently on the roster. I was there, and there was times where guys were getting ready for a pay-per-view and they were dead in their hotel room, and things like that happened. We don't often see things like that now. So I hope to think that, in a way that I did make a difference.
Well, and you talk about, and I think you're referring to Brian Pillman there, and I want to go back to that because, my introduction to you, of course, you came into WCW in 1991 as Johnny B. Bad. Something that I remember the first time I ever saw you, which was your feud with the Yellow Dog, which was actually Brian Pillman at the time under the hood, as they say. And just talk about that, because I know that was in Kansas. It was actually in St. Louis where they found Brian, and I know that's kind of where you broke into the business. So it was wrestling Brian Pillman, and I, of course, remember you coming on to wrestle Sting at the Clash of the Champions. But you came in '91. That this deal with Brian Pillman, you were on pay-per-view immediately. I mean, you got a really good push. I mean, what was that feeling like? And obviously, the Johnny B. Bad character, controversial, but also resonated with fans. I remember it to this day. I mean, you had a very good indoctrination into the business, I guess I'll say, to make that short.
Well, to be honest, it was terrifying because I didn't even know how to wrestle. I went to wrestling school it was like I was thrown right. I only had a couple matches in my whole life on independence. And the next thing I know, I was with WCW because, Dusty Rhodes saw me, thought that at that time I looked like Little Richard, and he had this whole Johnny B. Bad character he wanted to do. And so next thing I know, I'm wrestling one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling, Sting, on pay-per-view. I was so nervous I thought I was going to pass out, but there was exhilaration of making it and being, a WCW superstar at that time, and it was just an amazing time in my life. But it was guys like Diamond Dallas Page that would go down to the power plant with me and help me and work with me, and there's so many a list of guys that were really kind and helped me in my learning how to wrestle and becoming a better wrestler, and then becoming one of the most improved wrestlers at that time, and then starting to put together some moves and different things that and eventually going into the WWE, and then actually one of my favorite matches was against Brian Pillman. I mean, that guy was just amazing, and we put together a match, and I think it was War Games, or I'm pretty sure, but it was I can't remember, but it was a 30-minute match, and we had a really really good match. It was one of my favorite matches I had.
Well, your in-ring work was really good. It's funny that you mentioned kind of being nervous and not having a lot of seasoning because you're a natural athlete. You were a 4-time Golden Gloves boxing champion in the state of New York. Obviously, the athleticism, and then you use that in your Johnny B. Bad character with the what they call it, the kiss that don't miss. I can't remember the punch. It was
called the Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, and you putting the sticker of the lips on their cheeks. It was kind of
my gosh. Teddy Long, who
I love him.
Love that guy. He's been inducted in the Hall of Fame this year, and I just couldn't be happier for him. We used to have so much fun with that. We come up with these ideas and fun things, and we're gonna kick your booty without tutti frutti. And the kiss that don't miss, and it's gonna be a blessing to teach you a lesson. We used to have so much fun with that. It was a fun character. I think that's why I got over, because I think it's silly, but people didn't take it too seriously, and but it's really funny because being based on Little Richard, many people thought I was a black guy, an African American, and to this day I speak at schools, and like the teacher will say to me, "Who are you in wrestling?" I said, "Well, I started off as Johnny B. Bad," and they go, "Johnny B. Bad? That was a black guy." No, that was me, a former black guy.
Well, you had a great run in WCW. You won the TV title twice. What was it like when you saw the WCW buyout? Vince McMahon buys WCW. Do you think that hurts the wrestling business, not having that opposing company kind of pushing each other and challenging each other to become greater?
Well, that's a great question. And I guess the greatest time in wrestling was when we had the Monday Night Wars, because people were just flipping back and forth. As a wrestling fan, it was probably the greatest time in the history of wrestling. To have that competition. I mean, strong competition. We had some great superstars on both channels, and then you never knew which guy would go to the other channel. You know what I mean? Like Rick Rude.
Yes, the same night, two shows.
It was a crazy time in wrestling, but for the fan, it was the greatest time.
When you look back at, because you obviously spoke out, several years ago, following your retirement in 2004, I believe, and often in 2006, 2007, you kind of spoke out, and you talked about kind of ostracizing yourselves from certain members. What is this? I want to say the sport of wrestling, the entertainment of wrestling. What does it mean to you today? Because, I'm sure you could look at it and say a lot of the problems you incurred in your life probably occurred because of what you were doing, but it also afforded you a lot of opportunities as well. How do you look back kind of at your career and what it did for you both positively and negatively?
Well, first of all, obviously, the negative choices I made were my choices, and you can't go back in time, but I got to tell you, I look at all the paths that I've taken in my life, and I'm so blessed that I ended up where I am right now. And so even though I took so many different paths, it led me to where I am now. So would I have changed anything? Absolutely not. The only thing I look back on my life is I'm so regretful for the people that I've hurt, the relationships I damaged, and things like that I obviously can't go back and change. But those are the things that I wish never happened in my life. But it's like getting a second chance and finding a new passion and reinventing yourself, and then using those tragedies and turning them into triumphs in life, and helping other people now, and working with people that they don't make the same bad choices that I made in my life, the drugs and the alcohol, and the thing that just destroyed so much of my life. I can really be a pillar now to try and help other people.
Well, and that is, and I think one of the things in your message that stands out most to me is when you say, if you hang out, it's a simple message, but it's somehow so hard, especially for kids, when you say you hang out with good people, good things happen. You hang out with losers, you become a loser things happen. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most is the story you told, about your mom. The one person that believed in you is who you wouldn't talk to in high school because you had better things to do. You had drugs to take. You had friends to go hang out with. That really hit home, and I think it does to a lot of people, and what a great message that is, Mark. And I think if for no other reason, people definitely need to check you out on the website, thinkpause.org, to listen to that message, to understand it, and to bring you in to talk about it, because I know it's got to be hard for you to talk about, but my goodness, what a message it is. I mean, it means a lot to a lot of people.
Well, I was so blessed to have such an amazing mom. And, I think so many kids can relate to that, because we just get so caught up in our day-to-day life, our friends and our social media and things that we think are so important in our life. How many likes we had on this picture? What do they say about me? And kids are so worried about their reputation. And let me tell you something about reputation. Reputation is who people think you are, but character is who you really are. And that's what I really try to reiterate in my presentation, to get kids to really think about their character, who they really are, and what is truly important in life. So when I share these stories, and when I tell my story about my little brother and sister, my mother and father, the kids don't realize until towards the end of the presentation where they're all dead. Yeah. And it makes everyone just go, oh my gosh, and the tears start flowing. And I don't care what age it is, whether it's the high school or college kids I'm speaking to, or I actually spoke at the National SBI Convention, 2,500 agents here in Orlando, and you've never seen so many grown men that were just wiping their eyes, but because it really makes you think about situations in our own lives that we've gone back, and why didn't we spend more time with people that loved us or we loved. And, we get so fixated on making a living that we unfortunately forget to make a life. And that's what's truly important. And that's what I learned in my life now. And I try to live in moments in that time. And what I mean by that is I cherish these moments I have right now. I know I only have so many heartbeats left on my chest. And, I don't want to waste them in bitterness, resentment, anger, or unforgiveness, because all you will ever do is lock yourself in an emotional prison. And the good news is we have the key. And we have the key to open those doors to that prison and to forgive people, to stop having resentment or bitterness. It will get you nowhere other than put you in the grave sooner.
Well, Marc, as much as we love seeing you in the ring and rooted for you as a wrestler, I mean, what you're doing now is just absolutely what you were meant to do. It's your calling, and all those bad times you went through, I mean, you are just completely on the other side, and you're just coming through for these kids who they thought they didn't have any hope, and you're giving them hope, and it's just an amazing thing that you do, and we just hope you keep doing it for as long as humanly possible to reach as many kids and people out there, because you're absolutely changing their lives.
Well, I really appreciate that, guys, and I appreciate you guys having me on your show. And I'd love to hear from fans who are listening out there, listening that wants to go to our website, because we'd love to come to a school near you. And it is Think Pause. Pause is P-O-Z.
Yes.
In zebra. ThinkPause.org, and you can always reach me through that. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under my name, Marc Mero, and see if you can find me.
Hey, Marc, I tell you what, I can't thank you enough for joining us. We kept you too long today, and you're very generous with your time. I'm glad we finally got to talk in person. We've been Facebook friends forever. It's a true pleasure, Marc, and I hope we can meet up down the road. Like I said,
I'd love to come out and speak at your school, man. What a pleasure that would be, and it'd be an honor to meet you guys.
You bet, Marc. Thank you so much for everything you do.
All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.
You too.
Take care.